What's up, guys? Thanks so much for clicking on the video. My name is Leah, and let's recap and review Real Housewives of Potomac. This is season 10, episodes 6 and 7. I know. But you know what? We gonna get caught up. I'm gonna get caught up, okay? So let's get into this review. So y'all know sometimes before we get into the review, we get a little spicy just a little bit. And I just have a few things to talk to you guys about. So first up, the picture that you see on the screen is a standalone spicy corner where I talked about all things BravoCon as well as Angel being on Watch What Happens Live. So if you're interested in that, please check the link down in the description box below. So the next video, if you're interested and you would like to check out, is I did the drama video. I talked about Lisa and Julia fighting down at the Miami airport, Porsha being detained by the FBI at the Atlanta airport, and Mia getting arrested at the Atlanta airport. Y'all, a lot of things going on. Okay, so if you're interested in that, the link for that video will be down in the description box below as well. So since I brought up Mia and her arrest, we have to talk about Wendy and Eddie. So this was reported on November the 20th, and it says this: the Baltimore Banner is reporting the Osefus have 40 credit and slash or debit cards, some believed to be used in the company's name, and use aliases as Pam Oliver and Eddie Hennessy to mask their identities. They also say Wendy falsely denied using PayPal, Venmo, and Cash App to pay for her jewelry. Hashtag RHOP. So the link to that article will be in the description box below. It is pretty lengthy, but again, if you're interested in reading it, link below. What I gathered from the article was that the prosecutors are trying to create a story in which it shows that Eddie and Wendy have a history of potentially like scamming people, or they are a couple that is in an astronomical amount of debt, and that is why they allegedly committed insurance fraud. Now, Eddie and Wendy did release a joint statement, so let me pull that up for you guys. So the statement reads, at the outset, police failed to properly investigate the initial burglary despite clear indication of a break-in, displaying clear bias against the Osefu family. The Osefus heard nothing back but silence. My bad, you guys. It says the Osefus heard nothing but silence from police for over 18 months, despite complete cooperation and requests for updates. It is common knowledge that the other Real Housewives cast members have also been victimized after documenting their traveling on social media, yet none face this level of scrutiny or criminal charges. We believe it is deeply unjust for the Sheriff's Office and the Office of the State Attorney of Carroll County to publicly expose confidential financial information about Eddie and Wendy Osefu. What is most disturbing is that the state appears to have begun investigating only after charging the Osefus, which is highly irregular approach that raises serious concern about motive and fairness. The public release of the family's private financial details serve no lawful purpose and only invite conclusionary opinions about a case the state is obviously still investigating. It continues on by saying the Osefus have never used an alias on any financial application. This allegation is false and misleading. Such names were used for delivery of packages following their lawful purchase to safeguard the identity of very public figures. It is ironic for the state to assert or exaggerate the existence of any purported debt in connection with the accomplished professional couple. Due process is paramount to the administration of justice. It is breached by misleading the public with a false narrative has only compounded the harm. The defense is confident the court will prevent any further violation of the Osefus' right to a fair trial. Legal team for the Osefu family, and it's signed by several different lawyers. Honestly, I don't know how this is going to play out. I'm hoping for the best for Eddie and Wendy, but it looks like the prosecutors do have damning evidence. But I do think their defense poses good questions. Why did y'all not actually do the initial investigation? Did you truly believe that a robbery did not take place, or did you not do it because you have this black, specifically African family in this white town, and you couldn't fathom them having anything of value for someone to break into their house? Or did you automatically assume that these black people would stage a robbery? So maybe they might be okay, but it seems like every single week there's something worse coming out about them. But it is what it is, so let's move on. So a lot of people were curious as to why Monique had a white background for a confessional. Well, at BravoCon, she actually answered that question. So let me pull up that clip for you guys.
Just gotten the first clip of you.
I have now gotten 300 pounds lighter. It's very peaceful.
Why don't you have a confessional backdrop? Why is it a white background?
Good question. Because I'm iconic. And I'm the first housewife in history to have a blank, clear slate because I'm coming back with a clear slate. But the real reason is because everything, like I said, was last minute. When they did the photo of my house, it wasn't ready for my first confessional. So they had a green screen, but my outfit was metallic. So I disappeared. So they had to do a white backdrop and they weren't able to place it. And they were going to shelf that look. And I was like, no, whatever you have to do, keep the look. I don't care what you have to do. And then here comes the white backdrop and I was fine with it. So
Okay, answers.
Keep the first one. Keep what you say because I'm iconic. And I love to do iconic.
I hope we see her new confessional way more, where she has the red and black dress on with her locks in that cool design, because seeing her in the gold was jarring. Like, the outfit wasn't that cute where, girl, you needed a white background. Like, maybe if they would have put some green behind her. I hated it. I'm not gonna lie, I hated it, and I don't like her reasoning. Like, I get everything was last minute, but it just feels like Monique is always committed to being like, I'm so different, and it's like, girl, just do the background, you know. But you can't take away, she a beautiful lady. All right, so moving on. Let's talk about Giselle at BravoCon. So they were playing this game on this stage, and they asked several different housewives from the different franchises, who of your castmates that have been, let go or who walked away from the show, would you want them back? And they put on the mega screen 3 housewives. So for Giselle, it was Charisse, Mia, and Candace. She said she would make Charisse full time, Mia a friend of, and she would forget Candace. And I said, girl, Candace Dillard Bassett left a mark on you, because there's no way that you would want Mia Thornton to be a friend of this show when she implied that your daughters were whores. That lady basically said they were sneaking boys in and out, trying to imply that they were fast. And Candace ain't never did that to you. Yeah, Candace got you good, girl. Cause she should have just did what Marisol said. Marisol, I think on the screen was Nicole, Anna, and Leah. And I think she just said she wanted Leah Black back. And she didn't even say anything about Nicole or Anna. Girl, Giselle, mess. So moving on, let's talk about Angel. So Angel basically called Giselle the geriatric Regina George, and Wendy is the one who's living in misery currently right now, when an interviewer asked her how was her friendships with the group. So let me play that clip.
I was pretty floored by her comments about your Instagram. I thought that was shocking and quite rude.
It was very rude. I don't think that that's a discussion that you have at the table. And I definitely don't think it's something that you say to someone who just presented you with a host gift as a thank you for bringing them on the trip. So it was unfortunate. I thought it lacked tact, a little bit lowbrow, a little bit geriatric Regina George. But we're moving on.
What's your reaction to seeing Wendy say that you're living in misery? Are you living in misery here today at BravoCon?
I have the happiest life. I mean, my husband is right over there supporting me. I have 2 beautiful children, a thriving business. I am the picture of happiness. I think that Wendy was just projecting, actually, because who's living in misery?
It's Wendy.
I'm wondering if Angel's going to keep that same energy come time of the reunion. Because this is cute and all, calling Giselle a geriatric Regina George, saying Wendy is living in misery and all that stuff. But are you going to have the ovaries enough to say it to their faces when you're sitting on that stage? Because right now it's giving confessional gangster and it's giving interview gangster. Because not only was Angel really talking big and bad during her interviews with BravoCon, she's also doing it on online interviews. So she did an interview with Claudia Jordan, and unfortunately, I do not know the name of her co host, but they asked Angel about what she felt or how she felt about Ashley saying that this might not be the arena that she should be in or play in at BravoCon. So let me pull that clip up for you guys.
I want to ask you, we have a question here I want to ask you about.
Sure.
At BravoCon, your co-star Ashley shared her thoughts on your rookie season. Let's take a look at what she said.
How would you rate her rookie season?
What's the scale? 1 to 10? 1 to 5? Is 0 an option? Oh, okay. She's a sweet girl, but I just don't think this playground is for her.
What are the qualities that you think that she's working on to be?
Resilience, number one. It's okay to be sensitive and to feel things. It's okay to feel, but you can't let your feelings overtake you to the point that you can't function. Okay? Because one of the reasons why we're in this group is because we are women who can stand on our truth and can stand on our own and don't need anybody else to validate us. So if you can't do that, maybe you should go back, regroup, and then see if you should come back.
That's a rough group. That is a rough group. I would like to see you bring some of your homegirls on the show.
I put it this way. I think that Ashley doesn't have much going on this season. I think that it behooves her to talk about me because my life is obviously full and wonderful. I think that it is very nasty to call a grown woman a girl. I think that I am the picture of resilience. I know that I'm the picture of resilience. And so I don't receive anything that she has to say. And I would like to see how her storyline that doesn't exist plays out for this season. And I think that she has rode the coattails of everyone else that has something going on. And I think that that's where that's coming from. And here's the thing. I think that people are going to have a lot of opinions. I think that some of this cast likes to look in the comments to get what they want to say on the red carpet or at panels or at reunions. I think that, the people who watch this show give these women a lot of material. And so she can think what she wants to think. But I'm the quintessential housewife. So that's that.
Quintessential is not a word that I would put in front of Angel's name. She's not a quintessential housewife, maybe a quintessential wag, but not a housewife. I do agree with her that Ashley ain't got nothing going on, but I also agree with Ashley, and I talked about this in the standalone spicy corner, that Angel is kind of a dud. Like on paper, she looks great. She's young. I think she's like 36 or 37. She has a nice looking husband, 2 beautiful kids. It seems as though they have money and a nice relationship. She's pretty. She has a business. But like in theory, when she's playing in the housewife sandbox, she's constantly getting sand kicked in her face and she doesn't know how to fight back. So I would never put quintessential in front of her name. But let's get into this review. All right, y'all. So let's get into this. So episode 6 opens up where it left off, where Wendy is sick in bed in her villa, and you have the rest of the ladies at this restaurant, and there's a fight that just took place between Kiarna and Jazzy. Jazzy ends up asking Kiarna, like, girl, what do I need to do in order for us to move forward? And Kiarna does not have a response. Like, she's like stuck. Like, she's like, So then Ashley swoops into the conversation, and she's like, well, maybe y'all just need to sleep on it and then revisit the conversation. And they both pretty much agree. So then the owner of the restaurant where they're at, by the name of Mr. Sunshine, comes to their table with shots. So Giselle is passing out the shots, and she's giving each person a nickname. She gets to Stacy, no nickname. And Stacy peeps, and she's like in her confessional, like, Giselle, you're not gonna shake me. Giselle then again in her confessional explains that like she don't know who Stacy is. She was like, I don't know if Stacy's messing around with Chris Samuels. I don't know if Stacy is with Thimu. I don't know. I don't know who Stacy is. At this point, Giselle is giving press like a panini girl. Because it's one thing with the whole not embroidering her robe or the makeup bag. It's another thing when y'all are at the table, it seems like everyone's having a good time. To a certain extent, you could have gave her a nickname, or you could have just said, here, your name is Stacy, because I'm still getting to know you. But it's just kind of like, you doing too much. But I like the fact that even though I do think Stacy be lying, she not shook by the girls, okay? She not shook, and she steady be wrapping them up very easily, okay? So they're all taking their shots, having a good time. And then there's a situation that happens between Giselle and Kiarna, where Giselle basically says to Kiarna, girl, I had a conversation with Wendy, and she told me you said that you hated me. So what's up with that? Kiarna is visibly like taken aback, like, I don't know why she would tell you that. But okay. And so then Jazzy jumps in and she's like, well, I think Giselle is a good friend to you. Like, I've only heard her speak positive things about you. Kiarna was like, that's not true, because she hasn't only spoke positive things about me, but I do want to have this conversation. So she's like, maybe can we table it here? And then when Wendy is feeling better, the 3 of us have a conversation. And Giselle's like, okay. But in the confessional, Giselle is like, girl, I've been a good friend to Kiarna. I've supported her with her relationship with Greg, even when Greg didn't even like her. And I'm starting to hear that you have residual feelings about something that had happened 2 years ago. Like, what's up with that? Okay, so we see at the restaurant they have like a band and they start playing music and everyone's having a good time. So then the ladies head back to the resort. You can tell that Kiana and Angel are very tired. Kiara's in her confessional saying, you know, at this point, I'm exhausted by this group and these women. She's like, I have nothing left to give them. So it is what it is. And then you hear both Kiana and Angel say, you live to fight another day. We see in Ashley, no, I was going to say Ashley's villa, but no, I think Ashley was in Jazzy, Stacy, and Wendy's villa. And we see a producer cam where Ashley is really like trying to get Stacy to confess that she slept with Chris Samuels. And Stacy pretty much is saying like, girl, while me and my husband were getting a divorce, she was like, we were dating other people. He was seeing other people. I was seeing other people. Like, I did go out with Chris, but like, nothing happened. He's a cool guy, but we never had sex. And I'm just like, why does it matter? Even if they did have sex, Stacey doesn't have a relationship with Monique. She's not friends with Monique. She isn't even in the same social circles as Monique. She does not work with Monique. Okay? So what's the issue? Why is this a storyline? Like, I could have gotten behind Giselle and Ashley if they were trying to drive home, like, was she telling the truth about TJ or her divorce with Thimu? But this whole, like, whether she slept with Chris Samuels or not is dumb to me. Because why does it matter? Because they were two adults that consented to going out with each other. And if they decided to mess around, what's the issue? Like, this is a non-issue, and it's annoying. It's annoying. It's stupid, okay? It's dumb. It's so dumb. So it's the next day. We find out that Ashley is still talking to Josh. Angel is still somewhat in her feelings about what happened with the whole catfish situation, but she's trying her best not to like dwell on it. But girl, I need you to try harder because it's not working. Really not. So like I said, it's the next day. We see Stacy in the bathroom with Wendy. We find out Wendy has like a sinus cold, and we see that Stacy's lip is swollen because she had an allergic reaction. It was the way that Wendy looked at her lip like, girl, what happened to you? What was y'all doing? And she was like, girl, I don't know. I had an allergic reaction. And she's like, is it bad? And then Wendy's like, it's not great. So we see all the women pile into these golf carts to get driven to their yacht. And Ashley's in the confessional saying, girl, Stacey's lip grew because she was telling lies. She was spewing lies, pretty much comparing her to Pinocchio. So they get on the yacht. They have embroidered towels. Stacey's is blank yet again. But this time Giselle is like, you know what, Stacey, I feel like I know you a little bit better. And next time I'll pretty much get your stuff embroidered. So Stacey goes up to Giselle to like get a hug. And Giselle's like, no. Stay where you are, girl. We good right here. And she's like, all right, bet. So they all sit down at the table that's at the back of the yacht. And while they're sitting there, Giselle ends up asking Wendy, like, so did you hear about what happened the night before? And Wendy was like, girl, I don't know none of the drama and I'm fine with that. And so Giselle starts to tell Wendy about what went down, about how she's like, you know, well, I told Kay, you told me that she hated me. And Wendy's like, oh, okay. And so Kay is like, I never said I hated Giselle. And Wendy was like, well, that was the energy that it was given. That's what it was given, girl. And so Kiana is like, what I was upset about, I shared with you. I shared with you that I was upset that Giselle did not check up on me after what happened at the nightclub. And they show flashbacks of Kiana in the ambulance with Karen. And she was like, I shared my feelings with Wendy about that. Like, and we talked about that 2 years ago at the reunion, and they show a flashback. So in the confessional, Kiana's like, I don't understand why Wendy brought this up. Like, I thought we had moved past that. So she's like, I don't get where this is coming from. So then you could tell that Giselle was getting very irritated, and she was like, basically like, y'all shut up so I can explain myself. And she was like, you know, at the time my father was in the hospital. She basically said after the GNA event, she was like, I immediately got on a plane and went to where my father was at. She said, while, you know, when I got there, my dad was in surgery. He was in the ICU. And then shortly after that, he passed away. Everybody else is at the table like, oh, wow. And so they show back at the reunion season 8 where Giselle is sharing how, you know, she was there with her father when he took his last breaths. And so she tells Kiana, girl, you had to call a plastic surgeon to fix what happened to you. She was like, my father is no longer here. And she was like, Kiana, at that time, you were the furthest thing from my mind. And you could tell that it was hurting Kiana. Like, she was bothered by what Giselle was saying because she immediately was like, okay, Giselle. She was like, I got that. I got it. Okay. And so I think this is when Giselle ends up telling Kiana she's a high maintenance friend. And Kiana's like, yes, I am. Yes, I am. You guys already know that. And I was like, girl, that's not cute at like 36. Like, nobody's friendship should be high maintenance. And that's not me saying that your friendship should be lazy, but there should be a happy medium. Y'all at 36, some of y'all have kids, some of y'all have businesses, some of y'all have significant others. Like, life gets to lifing. You know, like sometimes you can only check in with your friend like every other like week or once or twice a month. But like if you are like, I just feel like at a certain age, unless you just already had that relationship with that person, you should not be expecting people to call you like every single day. But the person that you're friends with, you should have the ability to speak to them and like rely on them when you need them. And so Kiana tries to shift the energy. She tries to shift the energy and kind of like rope Wendy in it because she's like, well, Wendy, you told me Giselle was a snake and she was this and she was that. And Wendy's like, girl, I said that to Giselle's face. And Giselle even co-signs like, yeah, Wendy did say that to my face. She did. And so it didn't work. It didn't work. And so then I think Kiana said something to the effect of like, Wendy, stop talking to me. Stop talking to me. And then Wendy's like, girl, you're not even someone I think about. Like, you're the one who wanted to talk to me. Like, what are you talking about? You're the one that tried to bring me into this conversation. So what's your attitude for? Okay. And so in the confessional, Wendy is like, Kiana's like on this campaign to say that I'm a snake, that I'm sneaky. Yeah, girl, no, you're the snake and you're also very fake. It feels like you're projecting, all right? So then some of the women leave the table and go up to the top of the yacht, and we see that it's just Tia, Kiana, Giselle, and Angel. And you can tell at this point, Kiana was like tapped out. She got that 100-yard stare. She's just like her body, she turned her whole entire body, and then she's just looking off into the distance as the boat is like, you know, boating, okay, as it's sailing across the ocean. And so Tia jumps into the conversation, and I think she did a good job like mediating. She basically shares that she lost her father, I think like 8 years ago. She was a daddy's girl. She tells Kiana, like, you have to give Giselle grace. Like, she's not going to be the same for like the next 3 years because I think that's what happened to Tia. And she was like, a lot of her personality came from her father. So it was hard for her to lose him. So she feels like very like connected to Giselle with this point because she lost her dad and Giselle lost her dad. And she was like, Kiana, I understand you want your friends to validate your feelings, but you still have to give grace. So then Giselle basically says that she was just taken aback that like Kiana was talking negatively about her and Wendy told her this. And so then Kiana apologizes for not being totally honest about her feelings with how she felt about that whole situation of Giselle not checking up on her. And honestly, what really bothers Kiana is Giselle was going around town saying she was the aggressor in that fight. Like, the thing about Kiana is she does not know how to present her arguments. It's like she adds too much context when it's like, girl, just get to the meat and potatoes of it. You're mad that Giselle was going around town saying you were the aggressor, and to me, you were not. I know some people may feel differently, but I think that lady with the eyebrows, that Pixar reject, was the aggressor. Like, she intentionally came to that event with this spirit of aggression to start some mess, specifically with Candace. We saw her try to get an attitude with Mia. Mia diffused that situation. Then she came at Candace, and then a fight ensued. Like, she came there with all of that. To me, that made her the aggressor. So I can understand Kiana's frustrations, but I can also understand where Giselle's coming from, girl. Like, I didn't care about you. I had just met you. My daddy is dying. My daddy died. I do not give an F-U-C-K about what you got going on. My daddy gone, girl. You still here. It is what it is. But I feel like if Kiana just would have started with, look, what I was really upset about, besides you not checking on me, is that you were also going around town saying that I was the aggressor, knowing good and well I wasn't. And I don't feel like I was. And that hurt me because I thought we had a decent relationship. And I feel like the conversation would have gone a little bit more in her favor. But her starting with like, yes, I told you I was upset that you didn't check up on me. It didn't work for her. It didn't work for her. So then Kiana softens her approach a little bit better after hearing what Tia says. And she's like, you know what? I just want y'all to know, if any of y'all were in that situation, I would have done the same to protect you. And so she says in her confessional, she likes the fact that Tia was able to like pretty much bring them together and show empathy to both women. And so she appreciated that. Giselle was like, sometimes a bad situation, you have to come out on the other side to be in a good place. So she was happy. We then see the girls jumping off the boat. The water was beautiful. Okay. And then they pull up to this restaurant called Orchid Bay Beach House Restaurant. Beautiful view, gorgeous view. So, like I said, it was like the restaurant beautiful, the view gorgeous, and the food looked delicious. Okay, that food looked real good, and I don't even really like home style food where they put all the food and you pass it around. I don't like all that. I want my own plate, but I would have did that because that food looked amazing. So they're all sitting at this table, and Jazzy, girl, I don't know what happened to you, cause girl. So we find out that it's 14 days before Jazzy is supposed to get married. Ashley ends up asking her how she's feeling, and she's like, this was wonderful. We find out that she had a co-ed bachelorette and bachelor party, and she was like, this was also wonderful. Angel tells her, make sure you really enjoy the time before you get married. So then while they're sitting there, Tia brings up how she didn't like the fact that Jazzy implied that she used like a lot of filters the night before and the whole catfish thing. So we see that they were talking about the whole catfish thing at the restaurant, at Mr. Sunshine's restaurant. And Tia was like, well, I get the whole catfish thing. If I had used heavy filters and I don't look like who I look like when you meet me, I would want someone to say something. So then Jazzy was like, well, Tia, your pictures are filtered. It's clear as day. So then Tia said, well, Jazzy, I went on your page and I saw that your pictures are filtered. Now, mind you, the pictures that they show of Tia and Jazzy look like Tia and Jazzy. And even the picture that they used to show Angel and the whole catfishing thing, it still looked like Angel. It just looked like a skinnier version of Angel. Like her face was a lot smaller and her nose was like, I won't say it was pinched, but it was narrower in a sense. So I get what they're saying, but Tia and Jazzy look like Tia and Jazzy. So Jazzy is like, girl, I do not filter 99% of my photos. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. Most of my photos are unfiltered. And so then Tia was like, well, I was trying to diffuse the situation the night before, and then you came at me with all this fire. So then Jazzy points her fork like, let me tell you something, Tia. Let me tell you something. And so then Tia's like, girl, don't do that with that fork. Okay. And I said, not the spirit of Candace Dillard Bassett coming on upon Jazzy. Okay. And so Jazzy is like, girl, I got your card. You come into this group and you act, or you try to act like you don't know what's going on. And she's like doing like a British accent. Like, you come into this group. Like, I don't even think I could do a British accent. I don't think I can. Like, let me not try. And so Tia's like, are you really mocking my accent? And she was like, yeah, girl, I was Wendy at the end of the table, because Wendy was like, girl, what's going on down there? And then you hear Angel say, it is a little bit, like she is kind of mocking her accent just a little bit. And so they start arguing back and forth. And then next thing you hear Jazzy do is like, look, Tia, I'm not playing with you. And I was like, she was like, it's 14 days before my wedding. I said, Jazzy, what is wrong with you? Like it was a lot in that one moment. And so she brings up how they were like in the van, and I guess Tia was saying that like Mr. Sunshine was like sweet on Jazzy, and when she starts yelling again. And so Tia's like, girl, why are you so angry? Like, what's wrong with you? And Tia's just calm looking at Jazzy like, you are tripping. You're tripping. So they show the group photo that they took, and it seems like Mr. Sunshine really wanted to be by Jazzy. Honestly, he looked like an older version of Darius. That might be Darius' long-lost father if you don't know his daddy, okay? He might be from Nevis, all right? But then everybody kind of jumps into the conversation after Tia explains that, like, she wasn't being, like, malicious. She was like, oh, I think Darius might have a little competition because Mr. Sunshine was sweet on you. And so Jazzy is like, don't play in my face like that. And I'm like, you just proved how insecure you are in your relationship, Jazzy, because what she said was very much tongue-in-cheek. Like, I've been with friends and be like, ooh, the waiter was sweet on you, girl, and my friend is married. Like, why are you getting this, like, in your chest? And so Giselle basically says that pretty much she kind of sees where Jazzy is coming from. She was like, Jazzy and Darius have done a lot to overcome a lot of their obstacles. Basically, the boy cheating and lying to her. So they flash back to when Giselle and Jazzy had a conversation before the trip, and she was like, Darius lying to me was something that like really broke me. And so she says, they have two counselors. I think one that's a pastor from their church, and then the other one is somebody in Maryland who I don't think is like faith-based. And so even though Giselle feels like Jazzy is overreacting, she understands where Jazzy is coming from, but she's just like, girl, there was no need for Jazzy to point a fork at Tia. So then Tia apologizes and she's like, I wasn't trying to disrespect your marriage. I wasn't trying to disrespect your marriage, girl. Like, I'm sorry. So then everyone was like, well, Jazzy, do you accept her apology? And she was like, I do. But she was like, stop being a shady mother effer, Tia. And Tia was like, can I just lightly shade people? So then everyone starts laughing. So we find out in the confessional when they get back to the villa, they're all supposed to get into their slutty wear because they're having a slutty bachelorette party as the last event that they have for the night or their last day in Nevis. After things died down, like I said, they're heading back to the villa to get in their slutty wear. Well, we have the screen go black and it says 30 minutes later, cameras and audios break to travel to the resort. We see on the boat, there's like this intense conversation going on between Angel and Jazzy. And you can tell because Angel is like really like she really talking. Like, she really is getting into it. So then Stacey says in her confessional, the cameras are down, the mics are off, and we hear Angel and Jazzy having a conversation, but we can't really tell, like, what they're like saying, but you can tell that the emotions are really high. So then when they get back to the resort, they get on the go-karts. A lot of people were like, well, how are cameras down and we still got the footage? I was like, technically the cameras are down, but they still have cameras like rolling. In a sense, I know that they attach like the GoPros to like the sprinters and stuff like that, but that's supposed to just be like on the floor footage. It's not supposed to be important unless y'all, like, the ladies make it important. And pretty much this conversation became important because of how like emotional Angel was. Like, you could tell she was upset and she was irritated that this person that Jazzy was talking about came back into her life. So she ends up saying, the girl is like very jealous of me. You can hear Stacey, and Stacey is trying to like ear hustle, but she was like, she couldn't really make out what they were saying. But then you hear Angel say she's a snaggle-tooth, stringy-haired, hot piece of trash. And I was like, oh, who is you talking about? Then she calls the lady an ugly bitch. She was like, that bitch is ugly. And I said, oh, okay. But you upset about people talking about your looks. All right. So she then shows the girl to Jazzy, and Jazzy's like, oh, so that's okay. She was like, is this who you're talking about? And Jazzy's like, are you kidding me? Like, and she was like, yeah. And so Stacey is in the confessional saying, she was like, I don't really know what's going on, but it seems like this lady is trying to harm Angel's family. And then you hear Angel say she got a whole lot of like effing nerve to like bring her like come around again, pretty much. So we see that conversation and we then see Giselle in some like ringleader. It looked like a Halloween costume to me. Like, Giselle's body didn't look bad, but I was just like, this is a Halloween costume. She got the whip as the ringmaster. You then see Stacey in like, it looked like a Oktoberfest like outfit. Like, I think it was a barmaiden outfit, but she's like Guten Tag. And then you have Wendy. I don't know what Wendy was supposed to be, but I guess she was like a sexy professor. I would have settled for a dominatrix because that's what it was given for me. But before they like leave to go to Giselle and Ashley's room where they're hosting the event, you end up seeing Wendy and Stacey have a conversation. And Wendy's like, girl, what were Jazzy and Angel talking about? And Stacey's like, girl, I don't really know, but it got a little bit uncomfortable, didn't it? And Wendy's like, yeah, it was kind of uncomfortable. We then see Ashley's outfit. She's supposed to be an astronaut. I said, okay, girl. Okay, astronaut. Then Tia comes in. Tia got on, Tia had on snake, not snake neck. What is it called, y'all? Is it the see-through pantyhose? I can't remember the name of them. Fishnet. I said snake neck. Fishnet, like leggings on or stockings on. And they were like, is the outfit gonna come off? And she's like, no, girl, I'm a modest woman. I'm a modest slut. So, you gotta leave something to be desired. I said, okay, Tia. Then you see Kiarna come in. She's a sexy cowgirl. And Angel's supposed to be a sexy angel, but this was not. It wasn't giving Angel. I wish she would have did something else instead of playing off of her name. I think the shorts made it look frumpy a little bit. I was just like, ooh, girl. So when Stacy and Wendy get there, everyone's like, Stacy. And then Jazzy gets there. Jazzy's body is Tito. Jazzy got a nice body. So they play games, and they're all having a good time. But you can tell that Angel is like upset. Like she is really bothered by the conversation that she had with Jazzy. She's like being a party pooper. And it's like, girl, why come? Why come? We're playing the games. I'm not gonna lie. I got so irritated when production showed us Ashley licking on Jazzy. I was Stacy. Because my thing about it is Jazzy was flipping out at that table with the insinuation of this older man who she know doesn't compare to her man, but you are allowing Ashley to lick up the side of your body and you don't think your man, girl, I don't understand, Jazzy. I don't. I was like, I'm uncomfortable because me and my friends don't get down like that. And I have friends that are lesbians. So I'm just kind of like, I'm not going to let my friend look up on me like that. I am not. I was like, no ma'am. No ma'am. You got Wendy being like, what in the Jehovah? What is happening? So then they all start like doing sexual things to Jazzy. Like Ashley licked her. I think that Stacy paddled her. I think that it was a lot. And I said, girl, this is a lot. This is a lot. So then Angel is the last one. And she was like, she put handcuffs. She handcuffed Jazzy behind her back. And she was like, you have the crime of having a big mouth. And everyone's like, oh. And so then Jazzy was like, well, that's why I'm probably getting married. So everyone laughs and thought it was real cute. And then they were like, are you going to unhandcuff her? Jazzy is, I guess, double jointed. She takes the back of her arms and she just goes over. Everyone's like, girl. Like Tia's like, what did I just witness? Like Giselle and Stacy are like, oh my God. Mind you, the way she could have done it is like just taking her arms, but underneath herself. But the whole like she was pop locking. I said, ooh, girl. Like that made my back hurt. So all the women are like, oh my God, girl. So then Giselle ends up asking, she was like, does she have a big mouth because, a big mouth? Or does she have a big mouth because she said something that you don't like or said something she wasn't supposed to say? And then Angel said, no, all of that. And so Jazzy is looking at Angel like, what are you talking about? Like what's up with, what do you mean? So then Tia's like, girl, I'm getting a little scared because what's going on? So then Wendy sits down and she's like, well, I have a question to you, Angel. Like, what were you two talking about on the golf court? Like, what was that on the cart? Like, what were y'all talking about? And so, pretty much Angel lets it be known that she don't usually get down like that because Wendy was like, yeah, it was a side of you I've never seen. And she was like, yeah, I normally don't get down like that. But she said apparently somebody reached out to Jazzy and messaged her about me and gave her the incorrect information. And so Jazzy's like, well, I pulled her to the side and I said to her, hey, there are some people that have told me that you have made others feel excluded and left out before. And she's like, because I don't know Angel that well, and that's not the Angel that I have seen since I was on this trip, I wanted to bring that information to her. So then in the confessional, Jazzy basically says that they have a few friends in common. And so she was like, some people have told me that Angel is not the nicest person. And so Angel's like, well, see, this is where I take over. So then Angel says, when she was in Chicago, I guess that's when Bobby was paying for the Chicago, is it the Chicago Bears or is it the Cubs? I don't know sports like that. I only know certain teams. Okay. But she was like, when they moved to Chicago and she was joining the circle of wags up there, she was like, there was a lady that welcomed her into the group. Next thing she knows, she gets a phone call from Bobby's agent, his financial advisor, and his mentor. And they're calling like Bobby on like three-way about supposedly she stole like $30,000 from Bobby's account. And also she stopped taking birth control, or she was hiding her birth control so she could trap Bobby with a baby. And Wendy is like, oh. Now, mind you, I don't think that's the story that Jazzy was telling. She was telling a story about your behavior as it pertains to other wags. But I feel like Angel started talking about something that was totally different. Because everyone was like, so, I mean, he married you. So then Angel says she found out what the girl did, and she said, I read that girl her rights. Like, I went in. So then Angel ends up asking Jazzy, were there any other wags that came to you? And Jazzy was like, yeah. You know, people who had eyewitness accounts of how you don't really treat people the nicest way, and you have a reputation of being very mean and nasty to some people. And she was like, you know, but I wanted to get to know you because I'm just like, that's not who I've been introduced to, as well as like, I did kind of have my reservations because it didn't seem like you wanted me on the trip. So then Giselle chimes in and she's like, you know, I think it's great that Jazzy came directly to you. And then even Ashley is like, no, I think that's very big of you because you could have talked to us about this with the group, but you did not do that. And so then Angel says, you know, at this point, I'm just tired. And so then Ashley was like, does it really matter? Because you're married to him. Y'all have beautiful children. Like, when did this happen? And that's when Angel lets it be known it happened in 2016. And everyone's like, girl, that's almost 10 years ago. That doesn't matter. Like, that doesn't matter. And Angel's gonna piss me off because she has me over here agreeing with people that I normally wouldn't, like Ashley Darby and the Bird Lady. Because the fact that Ashley's in the confessional, and I agree when she says, like, girl, who cares if you stole $30,000 from Bobby or not? Like, he still married you. Like, you need to take a chill pill, but don't relax too much because we won't know if you're here. And then in the mid-season trailer, it looks like Monique and Angel get into it. And based off of the trailer, it seemed like Monique was trying to give Angel like solid advice and she copped an attitude. And I'm like, girl, please don't have me agreeing with people I don't like. Please. But Giselle ends up asking Angel, so are you mad at the situation or are you upset with Jazzy? She ends up saying, I don't know. Everybody is looking at her like, what do you mean? Why would you be mad at her? And so the next thing you know, Angel is in the confessional saying, like, I don't know Jazzy, but for her to, like, bring this stuff that was very hurtful to my family back up, like, it feels like she went digging for that information. Even if she went digging for the information or not, she still came to you and told you this information away from the group when she didn't have to. So then Angel decides to leave, which I was like, I would have been like, bye. Because, girl, we were having a good time and then you copped an attitude. Like, leave. Like Giselle said, we would not have known about this if you didn't tell us. Because Jazzy didn't say anything. You got Kiarna just kind of sitting there. Like, she doesn't even, like, really rush after her. She just kind of, like, takes it all in. And then you see Angel outside crying on the phone to Bobby, saying she's tired of this and she just needed to hear her husband's voice. And I was like, you don't got no other friends? Like, we find out that you have a sister in the next episode. But I was like, you ain't call your sister? Why you always calling that man? You don't got friends? I feel like you don't have friends, Angel. So then she says, you know, she's tired of the constant, like, back and forth. Excuse me, guys. And she's just like, she's over it. So Kiarna and Giselle go outside to check up on her. And they're like, are you good? Like, you okay? And she's like, yeah, I'm okay. But Kiarna's like, well, Angel, you got tears in your eyes. Like, are you sure you're okay? And so she said she understands. Kiarna ends up saying she understands where Angel is coming from. Like, it can be a lot being in this group. And she's like, she feels like her and Angel really bonded after this trip. Like, for real, for real. So then Giselle goes back into the villa and everyone's like, is she good? And Giselle's like, she out there calling her husband. And so Wendy is like, what's her problem? Like, what's the issue? So then Kiarna says, you know, I understand where she's coming from. She's like, this is a lot. She's in a sensitive time with this group. Like, it's just a lot. But then Wendy says, girl, the rules of engagement in this group is like, she knows them. She was like, she knows them. She's like, at this point, Angel just want to have a problem and she always thinks we're attacking her. She said Jazzy did her a solid by talking to her away from the group when she could have talked to all of us in front of the group. And so that's when Wendy says in her confessional, like, Angel is just committed to living in misery. She was like, every time we do something, she just assumes that we're attacking her. And in one hand, I can understand Angel's point of view of like, it just seems like everyone's coming at me. But then on the other hand, it's like, girl, you see everyone kind of coming at each other. Like, either get thick skin or you're going to have to learn how to like filter what you share with this group. Because I go back to what Giselle said. Someone I don't want to agree with either. Angel. She's right. We would not have known this information if you did not tell us this. Like if you, because we didn't even know the full context of what you were saying on the cart, on the golf cart. You called that lady a stringy hair, snaggletooth, like piece of hot trash, and then you called her an ugly bitch. Like we didn't know who that lady was. But you came and told us a little piece of her. And I wondered if she ever gonna come out. Probably not. But I wouldn't be surprised if she did. But that's where the episode ended. With everyone just kind of over Angel except for Kiara. All right, y'all. So episode 7. It felt like a filler episode to me, which I appreciate because episode 8, okay? Episode 8 down, okay? Episode 8. Because Stacy. Girl, and then I just saw the preview for episode 9, and the way Wendy got Angel. You know what? Stacy and Wendy, the winning team. Oh my God, I can't believe it. Because I did not think I was going to be here for Stacy. But the way girl, that's a housewife right there. Now, that's a quintessential housewife right there, okay? So, episode 7, it opens up. The women are back in Potomac. We see this scene with Tia and her children. I think her oldest daughter and her youngest daughter. She's on FaceTime with her mom. Her mom seems like a vibe. The lady was like, girl, I'm about to pool with my drink. And she like brings in her daiquiri to the screen. I said, come on, grandma. And so there's this moment where the mom tells Tia, hey, I'm sending you something. And the oldest daughter, I think that's Sienna, was like, so am I getting something too? And the grandmother kind of looked at her like, I said, I'm sending it to your mother. And then Tia's like, yeah, girl, this is for me, not for you. And then Sienna was like, she be talking badly about you. She be talking really bad about you. And Tia's like, no, I don't. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Okay. So we get away from that scene, and then we get this scene of Monique. We finally get reintroduced to Monique. I think she's still at the same house that she had with Chris, but the inside looks different. Actually looks really nice. So Ashley is happy to see her. They're happy to see each other. They talk about their relationship, how, it's always been love for them. It was love at first sight when she met her. They flash back to season 2 when they met each other in 2017. And Ashley just says, we haven't always been on the same page, but we always managed to get back to one another. Then we get that jarring white confessional of Monique, and she's talking about how, Ashley is her homegirl. She's never given up on her. She was like, she always brings her around. She's just a great friend to her. And she also talks about how their circumstances now are a lot similar than when they first met, being divorcees, as well as having, or being the primary parent of their children. So then they flash back to season 18. I saw Candace, I said season 18. Season 3, 2018. And then we see Candace. I said, miss you, girl. Miss you. And Chris was standing behind her. And I think this was Chris's birthday. And Monique was like giving a speech about how she was grateful for him being a real man and how she loved her husband. Then all of a sudden they flash on the screen all these different headlines saying that Monique filed from divorce from Chris after 10 years. She ends up saying, I've gotten 300 pounds lighter, and so has Chris, because he don't look the same either. What I will say, as someone who reviewed and watched season 1 of Love and Marriage DC, you can tell, and I do have a playlist if you're interested in that on the channel, you could tell that Monique was tired of Chris and she no longer liked him the first season of Love and Marriage DC. Like, everything he did annoyed her. Whether he did something that she wanted him to do correctly or if it was wrong, she always was nitpicking at him. And it rubbed a lot of her fan base the wrong way because she had this perception on the show that, like, they were, like, just great. Like, everything was always okay. And you could tell that Monique took pride in the fact that she was married to Chris, the status that he had, as well as they were besides her and Karen, they were the only ones who had the money to live in actual, like, Potomac, okay? But, like, even watching the early seasons of Real Housewives of Potomac, you could tell that Chris and Monique had issues, especially season 5. Like, she was irritated with him, and I low-key think she took, not even low-key, I high-key feel like she took all her frustrations out with her issues with Giselle and Chris onto Candace with that fight. So we then end up seeing Monique show Ashley her new African gray female parrot by the name of Sekhmet. I'm probably saying that wrong. She reminisces about T'Challa. If you don't know, T'Challa died in 2021, even though he was 2 years old, which is very peculiar. Okay. They show the flashback of when he attacked Wendy. And the reason why I say that's peculiar is, as someone who worked at a pet store where we sold African gray parrots, like the actual owner of the pet store, like her son would get them as eggs, hatch them, and then raise them from once they were hatched to a size and the age that was the right age in order for us to sell them. They don't die at 2 years old. That's uncommon. That's uncommon. And either two things happened. Either one, the bird was sick, or somebody did something. So I don't know if we need to call the ASPCA and get an investigation going, because African gray parrots can live at least to be in their 60s. And there have been some cases where they live beyond that. I remember a man that used to come to the store all the time. He didn't have an African gray parrot, but he had a green parrot, and I don't know the name of that parrot. It was just a green parrot, really beautiful parrot. But that bird was like 40 something. Like, I think it was like 43, and that man was like in his 50s. So something ain't right there. So they go outside and they start talking about Monique's healing journey while they sit on her beautiful patio, because the backyard was nice. And so she explains that the reason why she went on her healing journey is because of the fight. I said, you mean the assault? Because that's what that was. That's what that was, Monique. Ashley explains how there was something that happened a few years ago and how the incident that happened changed the group. Nobody had Monique's back except for her and Karen. She also expresses how, because of what Monique did, she does not believe what Monique did was right, but she feels like it should not be the overarching assessment of her character. So Monique explains that she felt as though she could not understand why she had that reaction, and then she blames it on childhood trauma. She says she got a lot of childhood trauma. I'm gonna be honest, I don't respect that excuse for a 42-year-old. I don't. I'm not taking it. Okay. I would give Monique so much more credit if, one, she would have just sincerely apologized to Candace, because she admitted during season 5 that Candace did not deserve that, as she cried to her pastor. Okay. After her pastor told her, girl, you're mad that they don't like the display that you're giving them. They don't accept it. Number 2, if she would just really admit why she did what she did. 1, you were mad at Candace. You felt like Candace switched up on you, even though Candace apologized to you several times throughout that season. But you felt some type of way because you felt like Candace did you dirty. Number 2, you were upset that Giselle and Robin were going to potentially spread this rumor about your kid not being Chris's kid. And number 3, you hated the fact that Giselle never really wanted to be friends with you, that none of the women were impressed by the display that you gave, and you thought the display that you gave was good enough for them. Given a little bit of Angel. Like, you thought being a wag, having 4 homes, being married to Chris, having this money was really going to have the girls gagging and wanting to be friends with you. And that wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. On top of that, number 4, you were in a loveless marriage and you were pissed at your husband. And so Candace was an easy target for you to take it out on. Because there was no reason why you were running in the backwoods of Virginia screaming that you were going to kill her. No reason, Monique. No reason, okay? But the fact that you can't admit that, I'll never give you credit. I'll never respect it. I will never respect it, okay? On top of that, the behavior that you exhibited on Love and Marriage DC already proved to me how you move. And I already knew that. But it was so interesting seeing your fans switch up on you, because they did not like the fact that you were behaving the same way you behaved on this show on Love and Marriage DC, because you were doing it to somebody they like, i.e. Winter. Everyone was okay with your behavior when it was thrusted upon Candace, Giselle, and Robin. But the moment you started acting snakish, two-faced, and trying to get the approval from the group, and it started to affect Winter on that show, all of a sudden, oh, Monique is this and Monique is that. When it's weird that y'all couldn't see that when she was on this show. Because Monique is similar to Bronwyn. She wants to be liked by the group. And when Arena and Ashley did not like Winter, all of a sudden, Monique didn't like Winter and was being two-faced towards Winter, even though Winter was introduced to the group by Monique. And they knew each other before the show because Winter was a wag. Okay? Okay. All right. So the conversation continues on, and pretty much they start talking about G&A. And Monique's like, what is that? And Ashley explains it used to be an apparel line. And Monique is like, girl, what? And I agree with her, girl, what? Fashions were horrid. They were ugly, very ugly. And I don't even think they actually really exist, okay? That was just like, a college end of the year exam, because that's what it gave. So Ashley is like, for World Pride, she is getting a float and she would like Monique to be on that float. She asks Monique, are you going to be okay being around Giselle? They flash back to the reunion. Monique is like, I'm okay. Like, she's like, I don't want to go back with anybody. I'm here and I want to move forward. Then Ashley brings up Stacey and she's like, she says a lot of things, but things are not adding up. And this also shows me that this whole storyline about Stacey potentially messing around with Chris Samuels is not anything. It's just that. It's just a storyline. Because if Ashley truly cared about her friendship with Monique, or they were friends like this, like they was locked in like this, she wouldn't hesitate to tell Monique, girl, word on the curve is that she messed around with Chris. Now, I don't think it was when you guys were married, but it was afterwards. And I want to give you the heads up before you meet her. Now, we don't know if she told her that off camera, but it looks like she didn't, because Monique looked surprised when Kiana brought it up. So it's definitely given that this is a storyline, and it's a stupid one, like I said before. So the next thing we have is of Wendy and Eddie, and we're at their house. Mind you, production is shady for showing how much them home renovations cost, which is $100,000. I said, girl, some of that that money, the insurance money probably went to that. Oh, Jesus. But we see them walking throughout the house because she says she saw this episode of HGTV and she was like, okay, we could do that. I said, can you? Can you, ma'am? So we see them go into the garage and they're looking at Happy Eddie apparel and they start talking about her birthday and the trip. We find out that she's pretty upset with her dad, her biological father, because they have a family group chat and the dad wished her uncle happy birthday and his birthday is 5 days after hers, but he never wished her happy birthday. We find out that they've but they haven't seen each other physically, like in person, in 20 years because he lives in Nigeria. But she explains how her stepfather is the person who she actually sees as her dad. Her parents actually got a divorce when she was 8 years old. She says her mom actually cites that it was religious differences that caused the divorce. I wonder, is it because he was another denomination of Christianity, or was it something else? Because you know how Mama Susie is Holy Ghost hellfire. She Jesus down. So I wonder what happened. Wendy says around the age of 15 is when her mom married her stepdad, and then her stepdad really stepped up as her father. And then by the time she turned 29 is when he passed away. Okay, so while they're standing there, next thing you know, her mom calls her and they giggle about that because her mom got some questions. She was like, can I call you back? And she said, no, tell Eddie he can wait, because she was like, me and Eddie are packing apparel. Before I move on, they start talking about Stacey and, her doing cannabis. Eddie ends up saying, there's enough room in the cannabis industry for all of us. But they all cite the reason why Stacey is doing what she's doing is because of the whole bring Eddie out when he exposed what TJ said. But they're just like, it's okay. So then Wendy ends up asking Eddie, we need to create a strand that commemorates this moment of Stacey getting into the cannabis industry. And Eddie said, let's call it Copycat. So moving on, let's go to Stacey. We actually see Stacey at this yoga studio, and she is taking promotional photos for her cannabis gummies, Shayo. Okay. She's talking to the photographer. They're getting everything ready. And Stacey says the reason why they picked Shayo, which is a Nigerian term which means happy or happiness or joy, is because of her family finding out about their Nigerian roots, I guess. And so she's pretty much she wants to honor it. I will still keep saying that she just should have called it Spacey Stacey. I will take some Spacey Stacy before I take Shayo. And that's just me being honest. Cause that gives me the like the imagery of like, oh girl, my head's gonna be in the clouds off this gummy, you know? So they flash back to the reunion where they're talking about like where Giselle just busted out Stacy for potentially having this cannabis line, and Stacey saying like absolutely not, like she doesn't have one, you know. So then we end up seeing her telling Jazzy in the flashback that she's going to be joining the 4% of black women who own a cannabis line. So she's just like, I'm ready to get into this industry. We see her take the pictures. They actually look really, really nice. And then we see her have a conversation with Ashley. Ashley basically FaceTimes her, and they're talking about going to Jazzy's wedding and how they're only going to be there for 2 hours because it's in Dallas, and they have to come back so they can be on the Pride float. And so Stacey shares with Ashley that she's naming the business Shayo. And Ashley is in her confessional pretty much saying that, like, Stacey, why did you lie about it? Because when Giselle asked you or busted you out about it, you said you did not have a Happy Eddie, like, not a Happy Eddie line, but you weren't copying them and you didn't have anything, and you said absolutely not. I will be honest, even though I'm warming up to really liking Stacey, okay, it still is weird. Like, if Stacey would have just owned that, like, yes, she was in the research phase of trying to figure out if this is an industry she wanted to get into, she would not be looking snake-like with, you have a Nigerian name business that means happy. Wendy and Eddie are Nigerian, and their brand is called Happy Eddie. It looks like you trying to bite off their style. So you should have just owned it in the beginning. But Ashley says in her confessional, she's just sick of Stacey and her lies. Okay, so moving on from that, the next scene is Angel. Girl, you pissed a lot of people off. You pissed like, oh my God. I did not even watch the episode on that Sunday when episode 7 came out. I get on Twitter on Monday, and when I tell you the girls was going in on Angel, and then I got onto TikTok, the girls were going in on Angel, and I said, girl, even the British girlies were going. I said, Angel, what did you do? And then I saw the episode and I said, ooh, Angel. Baby, no ma'am. Okay, so we see Angel and her older sister Ingrid, which I was surprised. I ain't never met no black lady by the name of Ingrid. Okay, they go and get snow cones and they sit down. We find out that Angel and Ingrid are 12 years apart, Ingrid being her older sister. She speaks about how, like, even though they have this big age gap, the older that Angel gets, the more she feels like the age gap is smaller because they have way more things in common and they can relate to each other better the older that she gets. So Angel shares with her sister about what happened in Nevis. She brings up how Giselle brings up how she does not look like her picture. She says, Giselle was at the table talking about, I went to the blogs and then I went to your pictures and you don't look like your pictures. She then starts talking about Wendy, and she said, and then Wendy starts saying that I look like a catfish. I said, no, Wendy never said you look like a catfish. Giselle said you look like a catfish. Wendy was just obnoxiously laughing at you and at the table. And so they flash back to the scene and you see the subtitles say, Giselle, like I felt like straight catfished. Giselle said catfished. Girl, Wendy didn't say catfish. And she said, really? Like, her sister is like, really? She really called you a catfish? And Angel's like, yeah, but she got asshole lips and Forrest Whitaker eyes. That statement pissed so many people off. Like, I was like, ooh. So then the sister chimes in and she was like, and I know Giselle because I've seen her in person. She definitely softens and filters that neck. So they flash back to Giselle and what she wore for the reunion for last year. And her neck do look a little filtered. Okay. Okay. And so I think it was her sister or Angel said, and Miss Wendy, Miss Permanent Filter, and then they show Wendy season 5 and Wendy season 6. But the difference, Angel, is that Wendy never lied about getting plastic surgery. So that's why nobody really brings it up, even though there is a difference between the way she looks season 5 and what she looks like now in season 10. But she was very upfront about getting a mommy makeover. Like, very upfront about it, okay? And here's the thing. My mind did not go to colorism, okay? And I'm not saying if your mind went there, you're wrong. I'm not saying that. I feel like if you are my skin color or darker, if you felt like it was colorist, you have the right to feel that way. I did think her comments were out of line, but I'm just letting y'all know that's not initially where my mind went to when she said those statements. I get why people are saying that about Angel because of her behavior up until this episode. It seems like she has all this aggression and anger and ire for Wendy when the people you should be mad at are Ashley and Giselle. Because it's crazy how Angel has not said nothing about Ashley up until this point. Because we know off the show, Ashley, Wendy, and Giselle are on Angel's ish list. Like, she don't see it for the three of them. But on the show, Ashley has not once but twice jumped in on a pile on you, but you ain't got nothing to say about her. Ashley was sitting at that table during Preakness telling you to keep that same energy. Mind you, she was not at that off-brand Kohl's with everybody when you were talking about Kiarna and your situation. At that table, when Giselle brought up the catfish, she was also agreeing with Giselle, showing pictures of you to people. But yet, you do not have that energy for Ashley or Giselle. Your sister has more smoke for Giselle than you do. That's weird, Angel. And I understand why people are looking at you like, girl, you might have coloristic tendencies or you might be a colorist. But for me, where my mind went is that Angel thinks that Wendy and her are on the same level because she knew her before she became Wendy Osefu of Real Housewives of Potomac. Angel believes that her and Wendy are the same, and she does not feel like Wendy has that much pull in the group. And how dare she jump in when the girls are making fun of me? Or how dare she try to reprimand or check me when I knew you before all of this? That's the energy that I was getting from Angel in this moment with her sister, because it was given like, girl, I knew you before all of the surgery. I knew what you was when we was in college. But what Angel doesn't understand, that girl, hierarchy, which I know you know very well, because as someone who is an avid watcher of Wags Miami being the best franchise, then LA, then Atlanta, there's a hierarchy in the Wags world. Wives are at the top, then the girlfriends, and everybody else at the bottom, okay? And girlfriends are always trying to become wives. Girlfriends can get treated like wives based off of their boyfriend's successes. That's also why Angel always brings up Bobby, because that is how the women kind of posture in the Wags world. If your husband or your boyfriend is a beast on the field, you will get treated better in the group no matter what your title is. Even if you're a divorcee. If your ex-husband is going crazy on that field and y'all have been married for double digits, like if y'all have been married for like 10 plus years, girl, you're still going to get the respect of being his wife, even if he remarries. It just depends on if the new wife is more likable than you. Okay, so Angel understands hierarchy. That's why she did what she did to Jazzy when she was like, oh, my husband was a 10-year starter, because that means something in the WAG world. And she's a wife, and she's letting a fiance know, girl, I'm a wife, understand rank. Okay, but what Angel doesn't understand is like, girl, you're a nobody. You're a newbie. We don't give a damn about you, girl. We're trying to get to know you this season. Wendy is a vet. She's been on this show for 5 seasons. Giselle and Ashley are at the top of the totem pole in this group because they are the OGs. They've been here since season 1. Kiarna and Stacey aren't even vets yet because they've only been on the show for 2 seasons. Only 2 seasons. They will become vets when they're on the show for 5 seasons, if you ask me. Okay? Jazzy isn't even a vet. Okay? You and Tia are nobodies. Y'all are on the lowest on the totem pole. And I think in Angel's mind, that is why she has an issue with Wendy, because she's also looking at Wendy like, girl, you just got cool with these women. How dare you make fun of me? But it's like, Angel, again, you're a nobody. She's a vet. She could do whatever she want. That's how you understand ranking. We've seen you implement it. So I don't know why you acting brand new. The issue is that Angel really thought she did what Monique did her first season. Monique thought by mentioning the 4 homes, doing the whole little rapping thing, being as pretty as she is, having the husband and the kids, the women were going to easily gravitate to her because that is how it goes in the WAGs world. But you're in the housewives world. Don't nobody give a damn about that if you don't have a personality. Either you're going to be the villain, the comic relief, or you just going to be that girl, or you gonna be witty and really like, or be sensible. You not giving none of that, Angel. You a dud. And I just, I don't know what's not clicking in here, girl. Something needs to click. And click it fast, girl. Click it fast. Because you are slowly, like, it's not working, Angel. It's not. It's not. She thought that her WAG status was going to gain her favor with Giselle, because the fact that she thought Giselle was going to be her big sister is wild to me, when you have 9 seasons of Giselle being a booty hole to everybody new in this group. Okay? To everybody new in this group. Okay? What's not clicking, Angel? So her sister says, the women are miserable and that's why they coming at you. Now you know how to deal with them. Angel says she feels like she's getting slapped in the face and that's her experience. I'm like, you're a party pooper and you're lame. You're a dud. That's why you're not having a fun time. That's why the women don't want to be around you. Then her sister tried to say that the reason why the girls are coming at her is because she lives in this area. I forgot the name of it. Was it called like River Road? But I'm like, girl, she about to lose that house. They can't find a house. So that's not a permanent residence. So that's not a flex if you ask me. It's just... So we go back to Tia's house and they have a discussion about what happened at Alexis's party. Alexis, her middle daughter, birthday was happening while they were in Nevis. Before we see the sit down with the older siblings, her husband Rob and Tia, we see her in the kitchen with her twins. She need to nip that attitude in her child, like her son, in the bud. I'm not saying punish him, beat him or anything, but the way that he kept snatching back the tablet and she was just asking him to do his homework, I get why the older sisters were annoyed with him, because he acts like a baby and he is the baby of the family, like him and his sister, but that would irritate me too as an older sibling. Legit, if I saw my sibling doing that, I would have snatched that thing out his hands and been do your homework. It's a tablet, you'll get it back when you're done. Don't be playing like that. Cause he, I was like, oh my God, he seemed so sweet. And that was too stank. I was like, don't do that, son. Don't do that. So we end up seeing them have a conversation. We find out that Alexis kicked some little boy off the invite list. The little boy got mad and posted their address online, and a bunch of random kids showed up to their house who were not invited. Sienna had to call the police 5 times. I said, was Rob not at the house? We find out that no, Rob was actually at the house and probably enjoying himself a little too much, because later on in that conversation, we find out that somebody threw up by one of the girl twins' bed. So I said, was y'all drinking? I said, how old were these kids? So not only did we have underage drinking, we had a bunch of out of control children. And Rob, it took you forever to get them to leave. And Rob said, he had it under control. I said, obviously you didn't, when the 16-year-old had to call the police 5 times. And Tia ends up saying that's why she can't leave. She was like, oh, okay. And then she also brings up how her daughter always calls her a Karen, but she was like, isn't it Karen behavior to call the police 5 times? I said, in this moment, no, because 45 kids just showing up to your house, they jumping on top of your car. Yeah, call the police. Get them out. Go home. Go home. So the next thing we have is Giselle in the car on her way to the airport to fly to Atlanta. If you remember last season, her and her siblings were contesting their father's will against his wife. Pretty much it was signed, but during the time in which the will was signed, the dad was at the ends of him dealing with brain cancer and didn't even have the strength to pick up a pencil. So nobody believes this. So they've been fighting this for the past 2 years. And I think Giselle was like, this time they're going to the judge, and the judge is supposed to hear both sides of the case and figure out how they proceed forward. Giselle, I find out, has 2 siblings. I remember last year she let us know she had a sister. Then somebody on Twitter was like, oh, she also has a brother that we saw when they went to New Orleans. I don't remember. I think that was that season 3 or season 4? I think it might have been season 4 when they went to New Orleans and they did this. They were doing the second line or something, or dancing at an all white party for her dad, and her mom was there, that the brother was there too. We don't know nothing about Giselle. If you she been on the show for 10 years and we really don't know Giselle like that. I was like, wow. But pretty much they believe that the wife destroyed his real will, because in the will it seems as though everything was either supposed to go to her and her siblings or the grandchildren, and that's not the case now. So it is what it is. She talks about the wife being extremely angry with them for having to go to court and get lawyers, but Giselle said maybe if she wasn't such an evil person, we wouldn't be dealing with this. We also find out that Grace is going to be in town for the Pride Parade. So she's like, I'm going to go do this in Atlanta, and then I'm getting right back on a plane to come here and go do World Pride. So we go to Greg's new house. Honestly, Kiarna live at that house because Greg don't even look like he got that type of style. Everybody was surprised that Greg had 3 kids. I remember him saying that he had 3 kids last season. She lied about her paying for that condo because they show flashback scenes of them in couples counseling, and Greg ends up saying, like, we're working on buying her condo. So you lied about that. And so what Jazzy said was true. I'd be upset if my man didn't pay for my condo. Okay. She says that her and Greg are in a good space. They're on their way to a Wu-Tang concert. I don't know that many Wu-Tang songs, to be honest. But I will say, if I was going to go to a concert, I would at least try to know at least 10 songs before I went. I don't know why Kiarna had on a leopard print capri jumpsuit. That did not give Wu-Tang. You could tell Greg been working out because them arms was swole. I said, okay, Greg. But yeah, they seem to be in a better place. Pretty much, they're not focused on getting married. But also, that tells me a lot about Kiarna and Greg's relationship. Really, like, in the beginning, you were saying that in a year you wanted to get married and y'all were moving into a house that y'all were building. Now you're not worried about that. How long have Kiarna and Greg been together? Because if it's been years, girl, then y'all never getting married. And if you want children, that's probably not happening since he's a father of 3 already. Because the way that he spoke in that flashback with the counseling, he was talking about how the condo was supposed to be their place without the children, and the house was supposed to be for the children, like the family home. So it's given, he wants to keep things separate in a sense. Like, when I'm with my kids, we're being a family. When I'm not with my kids, we down at this condo living our life like we don't have kids. So if she want kids and she want marriage, you might not get that, girl. And if you okay with settling for Greg, then Godspeed. The next thing we have is of Wendy and Stacey. They both look really great in this orange color. They're talking about how Wendy's like, she going into my closet, she copying me. Wendy basically says Stacey is an unserious person. She doesn't think anything that Stacey does is malicious, and where she's at in her life right now, she just wants to be around people that don't bring her a lot of stress, and she's cool with being around with Stacey. She actually really enjoys Stacey. So then they talk about World Pride. I agree with Wendy when she said the gays deserve better if Ashley is gonna sing. They flash back to when Ashley did not World Pride, but regular Pride in DC back in 2019. We see a scene of Ashley talking about how she's getting a custom float made for the group. Ashley says she's bringing out Ash TOP. They start talking about Stacey launching her gummy line, and that's when Stacey shares with Wendy that she's naming the business Shayo. And Wendy's like, a Nigerian word? Okay, Stacey. And she was like, and what was the point of this? And Stacey's like, because of my Nigerian roots. She was like, Wendy's like, you couldn't pick a different name? She was like, no, this is to honor my Nigerian roots. She was like, because I have an affinity for Nigerians, Wendy. The way that Wendy looked into the camera, like, this bitch, I cackled. She was like, I'm so happy that you're my sister, Like, I love that. I said, girl, Stacey is crazy. And so then Wendy says in her confessional, it's giving single black female. And it slightly is, girl. Why could you not pick a different name like Spacey Stacey, girl? She brings up the candles and how Karen stole the candle idea from Wendy. And Karen's whole thing was like, her candles are 3 wick and Wendy's is 1 wick. It's different. So we go back to Giselle. She's in Atlanta. I think Angel is the one that picks her up. And so... or was it Adore? Either way, one of the twins picks her up that attends Spelman. And we find out that everything is kind of like, they're in this gray zone with this whole will situation. She said the judge heard both sides and they didn't throw it out. And so they're going to deliberate on the information. So that's a good sign. So all they can do is wait. Angel talks about how the death of her grandfather felt very rushed. And she was just like, this just feels like it's dragging out. And she wants it to end pretty soon. And you can tell that Giselle was about to get emotional. And so was her daughter. So they kind of cut the conversation very short and they drove off from the courthouse. We then see Ashley, Stacey, and Wendy head to Dallas for Jazzy's wedding. The event space beautiful. Money was spent. Money was very much spent, okay? Jazzy looked beautiful. You hear Ashley shading Angel talking about, now this is what a wag is. Capital W-A-G. The decor looked great. Her ring, Jazzy's ring got upgraded to 4.8 carats. And they take shots together. We actually see her walk down the aisle and stuff like that. Wendy tickled me when she was like, girl, we only got 2 hours at this wedding because by midnight, Ashley has to go turn into a man. I screamed. Okay. I don't know if they should have went. Like, I feel like if you're going to go to a wedding, you should enjoy everything that's being, offered to you. So like the ceremony and the reception. But I'm pretty sure Jazzy was happy that they were there so that her wedding could be featured on the show. It was kind of like a blip. I thought everybody was going to show up, or at least they were going to give her more camera time, but not so much. She looked beautiful, and that's key. So now we're back in DC and it's World Pride. We see all the ladies pulling up to this restaurant where they're meeting. Everyone's greeting everybody. And then we end up seeing Ashley pull up. Ashley is like, I'm going to be honest. I don't have a problem with Ashley being a drag king, but I wish that she would commit to it further. Like, I watched clips of that new drag king show that's similar to RuPaul's Drag Race. And the girl that we saw Ashley with last season, I don't remember her name. She won that series as being like, the best drag king. And so I just feel like, girl, instead of just putting in grills and putting eyeliner on as a goatee, you could have got a fake, like, girl, I would have, give me the illusion. That's the thing. Like, one thing I hate on Drag Race is when you got the queens that come on the show and they don't have titties. Like, I don't want to see bare chest. I want to see socks. I want to see a breastplate. I know they cost a lot of money, but I seen the girls give illusion. I want to see you contour your chest where I have the illusion of titties. Okay. I hate when the queens get on that show and I don't see titties. I don't see them. I'm like, don't be having your chest out if you ain't gonna have no titties. And I'm looking at Ashley. If we're gonna dress like a man, get some fake goatee. Girl, I don't want to see long hair. Put on a wig. Braid that hair up and give me like a fade or, like some white boy finance bro type of hair. Okay? I band down them titties. Give me the illusion, Ashley. Because right now we're half-assing it. And I don't appreciate it. Okay? And then also, Ashley as a boy is so like, it's very perverted. Like, girl, is that why Michael liked you like that? Because, girl, it's these names that you give the women. She basically went around and gave all the women, like, different names if they were drag kings. Tia is turned on by Ashley. I said, okay, girl. So then Ashley has these names that she's given the women. The only clever name that she had was Angels, which was all over her tits. Oliver over her tits. That's a clever drag name. The rest of them were just like perverted, like it sounded like frat boy humor. Like a high school kid could come up with this. Cause the name for Wendy was These Greasy These Nuts. Girl, what? Then for Stacey was Lick Her Hosen. For Tia, it was Proper Puss Popper. Then for Giselle, it was Serving Jizz. Grace was there as well. So everybody's like, girl, why would you? No. Then for Kiarna, she got Cum Injector. And I said, what kind of drag names are these? These aren't good drag names. Like I said, the only good one was her name. What's her name? Angels, all over her tits. All over her tits. Clever. The rest of them, girl. So then you have Wendy saying, I don't even know where Ashley got these names, but I actually like my names. So then they all are like dancing, having a good time. Then Monique pulls up. You could tell that Giselle was kind of caught off guard. So I guess Ashley didn't tell her she was coming because Giselle kept fixing that plastic hat on top of her head. Like, oh. Then her friend Kyle was so excited to see Monique, like he bear hugged her. So I guess he been missing her. And so Wendy is like, girl, what is happening right now? Everybody's taken aback. And so Giselle is just kind of like, I've been thinking about Monique for years. You know, I want to know who Monique is post-divorce, because the Monique we knew before wasn't her being her authentic self. So you then hear Wendy say in her confessional, she doesn't really know Monique. She was like, we had that one conversation at her lake house. Then the fight happened. And then after that, it was just that. So then you see Ashley give Monique her name, and it's Dr. Do It A Lot. Lame as well, Ashley. So Kiarna decides to strike up a conversation with Monique. Mind you, Kiarna should have stopped when she asked Monique if she knew Stacey, and she said no. She was like, I don't know her. Kind of like, well, I thought it was... So which I just heard Samuels. So, and then that's when Giselle jumps in and she was like, oh, Chris Samuels. And then she was like, well, you know, Stacey dated him. And it really felt out of place because Stacey and Wendy were looking at her like, girl, what are you talking about? It felt like a producer pushed Kiarna to speak about this, but she didn't time it correctly because it didn't make any sense. And Monique looked just as confused as Stacey, because you asked the lady, did she know Stacey? And she said, no, I don't know Stacey. So it was dumb. Yeah, y'all, that is it. That is all. As always, remember to be bravely authentic. Definitely hop down in them comments below. Subscribe to the channel. Like the channel. And I'm out, y'all. Deuces.